And maybe we can start by defining what neurodiversity actually is.
Well, it's a fancy word for all humanity, but don't tell anyone that.
Wait, what?
Fancy word for all humanity.
I'm on a multi-year long waitlist for an ADHD screening. If we are all neurodiverse, what is the screening for? Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, attention deficit disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, intermittent explosive disorder. I thought ADHD was a disability, hence the term twice exceptional, meaning a person that is gifted with a disability. It seems to me the labels can be swapped, intending to mean similar things. But ADHD has high comorbidity rates, like 80% plus high, ADHD plus anxiety, autism, depression, epilepsy, obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette's, and the list goes on. That is complex ADHD. So is the screening for ADHD or complex ADHD? What has neurodiversity got to do with it, and why go for a screening in the first place? Judy Singer spoke about neurodiversity from her research into spectrum disorders and social disabilities, fighting against ableism, discrimination of disabled people. However, diagnosing this disability isn't simple. All humans are biased, science and research is biased, so subjective elements of diagnosis will be biased. Unfortunately, an unsolvable issue.
Right now, the current estimates are that about 1 in 10 children, and probably more, have ADHD.
But more and more are being diagnosed as time goes on. Past bias potentially resulting in underdiagnosing the disorder, underdiagnosing certain groups more than others. Our current bias potentially resulting in overdiagnosing the disorder. Thus, diagnosing ADHD, or complex ADHD, is far from simple. Hence the general advice, don't diagnose yourself. But the criteria doesn't really help. A persistent pattern of inattention and/or hyperactivity, impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. 6 or more of the following symptoms have persisted for at least 6 months to a degree that is inconsistent with developmental level and that negatively impacts directly on social and academic occupational activities. For older adolescents and adults, age 17 and older, at least 5 symptoms are required. Simply put, have you experienced symptoms that negatively impact your life for an extended period of time? Seems vague? The list of symptoms could be discussed for hours, but for me, they come down to the interpretation of attention and activity, being inattentive, hyperactive, or both. To my understanding, symptoms are measured using behaviours remembered by the individual, and/or others that knew them. However, behaviours are multi-causal. I would argue there is also non-linearity to their causes, as Judy emphasises social disabilities, the interaction of people in environments. An example symptom, difficulty following instructions, can lead to multiple questions. What sort of instructions? How important are the instructions? Who told you the instructions? What is your interpretation of the instructions? Obviously, it all depends. Therefore, I think diagnosis is looking for general trends or typical behaviour. But if behaviour is environmentally impacted, maybe the trend or typical behaviour is due to the environment. Lockdown maybe. Begging the question, nature or nurture? Breezing past a lot of philosophy, I think the question is ill-posed. Both nature and nurture play roles in behaviour. Multi-non-linear causality. So biology has some causes, but so does the environment. This is where the online explanations confuse me. Popular explanations are attributed to the brain. However, apart from identifying brain activation differences, I can't find much more than speculation. Lots of correlational research. Genetics, for example. Whether these underlying neurobiological factors are causally related to symptom presentation remains unresolved. The default mode network discussions are interesting, but again, only showing brain activation differences, so correlational. And sounding like a sciencey person here, but there needs to be more solid research. Solid referring to causal, not just correlational findings. Very difficult if behaviours are multi-causal. From what I have seen, Andrew Huberman has almost single-handedly pushed the
dopamine system,
one of many potential causes. But I've only found correlational research. The issue I see with focusing on correlational research and potential causes leads to statements like, my dopamine levels are the problem, my brain is the problem, mistaking correlation for cause, sometimes a lone cause. There is more to behaviour than the organism. Saying ADHD is a social construct will, understandably, frustrate people. However, without society, the disability wouldn't emerge, as Judy alludes to, social disabilities. Just because something is a social construct doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behavioural experiences certainly exist.
Our social constructs have shaped our environment, which in turn reinforce our social constructs.
Changing environmental constraints can remove disabling behaviours. They could also add disabling behaviours. As a half-deaf, half-blind person, I live with constraints that disable me from participating in some environments. By developing skills and adjusting the environmental constraints, the physical disabilities I have are no longer disabling in the new organism-environment relationship, learning sign language, or sitting on the right side of a room. Before learning sign language, I was disabled from participating in those environments, but now I'm more able. Phones are often related to ADHD behaviours, but if ADHD is all biological, phones shouldn't make a difference, unless environment plays a role. Screening, diagnosis, the medical model of categorising behaviours is the issue. Special educational needs and disability support requires the label. Well-being support requires the label. Medication requires the label. Even community, to an extent, prefer the label. As Seth Godin has said, people like us do things like this, and the label helps. However, the label ADHD isn't a disability. The label neurodiverse isn't a disability. Disability is in the relationship a person has with the environment they are in, which the medical model doesn't and can't really measure. How can symptoms be so well hidden? Environment plays a role in behaviour. Why is it harder for some people more than others? Biology plays a role in behaviour. Attention and activity, as behaviours, depend on both biology and environment, which is true for
all humanity.
If some people outgrow ADHD, there must be something we can practice. Things like planners, lists, alarms, instructions, breaking up long tasks are common and popular tools for everyone, but we are all unique in changing environments. Practice with tools depends on the situation. Organism, environment, relationship. I've heard people say, if you know one person with ADHD, then you know one person with ADHD.
Because everyone is different.
The same for autism, OCD, Tourette's, and most other neurodevelopmental disorders. Everyone's needs are different. In an ideal world, we have a needs-based system. Educational needs of the person, well-being needs of the person, medical needs of the person. ADHD as a disorder, but requiring focus on needs of the person. But money, people, time, facilities, and many other barriers get in the way of that. I am on the waitlist out of curiosity, but because I'm a self-directed learner, practicing skills and using a constraints-led approach to learning, I help myself through my hearing issue from birth, my eyesight issue from 3 years ago. Yes, I lost sight in my right eye just before the outbreak. I worked through my anxiety and depression issues alongside many other challenges life has thrown at me through learning how to manage the dynamic organism-environment relationship I find myself in. It has given me the autonomy, freedom, and control to thrive on my own. If I have ADHD, it's not a problem to be fixed, it's a label. And ongoing community, support, and education does more for individual needs than the label, in my opinion. Science communication is complex, especially in topics like these with the amounts of nuance involved, but I found the online oversimplifications actually did more harm than good for me, but of course, everyone is different. I do want to say thank you to the pre-published peer review that I got from people inside of the Discord server and for those contributing to the conversation. If you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below.